So I'd like to get us started. I'd like to introduce today's speaker. His sales career started in 1996. Back in those days, his cutting-edge CRM consisted of a 4x6 index cards inside an old Nike shoebox. He's a sales consultant and trainer who helps B2B sales teams differentiate from the competition, build stronger connections, and win more deals. A warm welcome for Jay Mays.
Oh,
there we go.
thank you. Thank you. Thank you for the joke. I really appreciate it, Morgan. The old Nike shoebox. Appreciate y'all being here. Let's jump right in. Let's say I came to your office and I threw a pile of Legos down on your desk. And I said, build me a race car. By show of hands, how many folks in here could build me this race car? All right, one.
Just teasing.
Take
me a while.
Usually maybe one or two. I like it. I think most of us would probably build a little something like this. Do you agree?
Yeah.
But when it comes to my clients and B2B founders, it's like throwing those Legos down on your desk and saying, build me the Millennium Falcon. That's what a lot of founders are trying to do, hiring salespeople. Build me this 8,000 piece Millennium Falcon. What would you need? If I threw those Legos down on your desk, what would you need to actually build this Millennium Falcon?
Instructions.
Fantastic, right? Maybe the Legos organized, maybe absolutely the instructions. The punchline before we hop into hiring is the number one mistake that I see founders make is they want to abdicate responsibility for sales. I'm not a salesperson. Let's just hire a VP of sales, have her or him figure it out. The number one takeaway before we jump into hiring is I highly recommend you figuring out sales, or at least figuring out what works and baking that process first before you start hiring people. Process before people. That is the number one way to free yourself from the sales role. So if you're a founder, you're trying to hire in either your first VP of sales or a bunch of salespeople to start scaling, make sure you have your process baked first. Get those Lego instructions down, then begin hiring. All that said, some good context. Let's jump into how to hire high-performing salespeople. First question I want to ask you, in your experience, and I don't know everybody personally yet, but why is hiring great salespeople, why is that so hard?
Because they're salespeople.
John, you took it. That was my punchline. Everybody agree? Well, what's your experience hiring salespeople? Is it easy?
No. My experience is also that they'll come and be like, I'm a great salesperson, so I know how to do sales, but they might not know our customer or our product. That's been hard.
And the farther they get in their career, the more they know how to sell themselves. They know the exact right things to say in an interview. They know how to sell themselves. Will they show up? Will they sell your product or service? It is really hard. Am I hiring a Michael Jordan? Or a charlatan is telling me something I want to hear? That is tough, and that is real. Anybody know what the cost to turnover is on pretty much any employee? But let's talk about salespeople. Anybody know, if you want to quantify the value of cost of what it costs to lose a salesperson? Anybody know what that is? What that number is, even as a percentage of salary?
No.
Okay. It is up to 150% of salary. That is the cost of turnover. When you include, after you lose that employee, lower productivity, lost knowledge, potentially lost client relationships, then we got to start the engine all over again. We got to recruit, we got to interview, we got to train and ramp up. It's an absolute nightmare. This is costing founders up to 150% of salary each time one of their employees turns over. And the last question, and this is dependent on the organization, but I'd like to ask you personally, how long do you think it takes from day one till this salesperson is fully hired up? And anybody can answer. It's a safe place. I just want to hear. I have my opinion.
Never.
All right, John, killing it.
18 months.
What else? I've heard 18 months. Absolutely.
12 months.
Yep.
Does it depend on context? I'm
Yeah,
sure.
the complexity, how difficult is the product to sell? Is it a team sell where they're bringing a subject matter expert, or do you expect them, her or him, to have product knowledge? I've heard anywhere from 12 to 18 months. And for complex sales cycles, absolutely. For an easy sales cycle, I'd still say 6 to 8 months.
Yeah.
And so the challenge this is creating is you don't know if you've hired a bad salesperson. You have no idea. And now 6 months have passed and you're like, well, I just need to give her more time. I just need to give him more time. And then the great founders that want to be good to their people, let's just give her 3 more months. Let's just give her 4 more months. All of a sudden, a year and a half has passed. You got the opportunity cost. This is hard. This is expensive. So,
hey Jay, is that ramp up time part of that 150% cost of salary?
absolutely, it could be, right? Because if you're sitting in there, you're putting all that into training. Think about the other thing, and this is off subject, but organizations who don't have a training program, who don't have a safe space for salespeople to ramp up, like when I was ramping up, they'd throw me in front of live opportunities, qualified clients, and they'd be like, go figure it out. Think of how many times early my first 6 months that I could have closed something had I been a competent salesperson that I just whiffed because I had no idea what I'm doing. So absolutely, that can all go into the 150%. The bad news is there's no silver bullet. The good news is today we're going to talk about, for the next 40 minutes, how to create more certainty. There is absolutely a way. I do this with my clients. Nothing is 100%, but today we're going to talk about how to create more certainty in the hiring process. So thank you so much. Thank you so much for helping Morgan. Morgan, the producer extraordinaire. So here's today's agenda. We're going to go quick. I'm going to have you out of here by noon. Part 1. We're going to talk about what are the characteristics of high-performing salespeople. Section 2. I'm going to show you, and then we're actually going to screen resumes for effectively. We're going to actually go through that exercise. And then number 3, how to cut through the interview BS. Exactly what John said. They know how to sell themselves. They know the right thing to say. So let's jump in. That's our 3 parts today. So I'd like you to go into chat. What characteristics, there's no wrong answers here. What characteristics should your ideal salesperson possess? That's what I'd like to know. No wrong answer, just hit me. What do those ideal salespeople look like? All right, let's see. Sorry, I have to run for a customer. Okay, Vanessa should have left her AI bot. She had it. Empathy, that's a great one, Mike. Critical thinking, love it. What else we got? Good listener, James, that's the foundation. Absolutely. Ask good questions, absolutely, bud. Anybody else want to jump in there? There's no wrong answers. Vision of success, I like it, Mike. All right, so let's jump in. Morgan, if you would please. So this is what I hear from some of my clients, and I agree with everything that we just talked about, and I want to give you some more. I want to yes and you. So you could just start clicking that, Morgan. No, actually go back to key characteristics. It should be back a slide. There we go. Just leave it. It's all good. So drive, competitiveness, need for achievement, optimism, integrity, relationship building, planning and organization, soft skills, all these are important. But what we're going to talk about today, drum roll, here is your hack. Here is big idea, big takeaway number 1. You can pull it back up, Morgan. Let's stay on there. So our solution we're going to talk about today, and keep it up for the next slide as well. Forward. All right, so our solution is need for achievement plus competitiveness plus optimism. The term we're going to use today is drive. So this is a big idea here. I want to let this sit. When we're looking to hire effective salespeople, this is paramount. Their own need for achievement. Are they competitive? Are they optimistic? I'm putting that together as an equation called drive. So this is punchline number one. This is big takeaway number one. We are looking for drive. Leave the slide up there, Morgan, leave it up, and let's do one more. Big idea number two. Big idea number two. We can train anybody, any of you can train industry specifics, our sales process, sales techniques. We can absolutely train that. What we can't train you cannot instill intrinsic motivation and drive where it doesn't already exist. This is what you're looking for. You are looking for drive. This is how you hire high-performing salespeople with more certainty. With more certainty. All right, let's keep rolling. You can actually just keep that up, Morgan. Let's just keep rolling. So how do we review resumes for drive? Jay, this is great. What a great concept. I have no idea. Let's jump in. So this is a resume here, and this is just a mock resume. I'm going to give everybody a second. I have things highlighted, and then Morgan's going to slowly go down and point out what drive looks like on a resume. So let's go real slow, Morgan. Keep clicking for us. In the resume, I'm seeing things like achievements like 4% year-over-year growth. Let's hit it again. President's Award, not once, President's Award every year. Next one. 1 trips for sales quota plus 5%. 1 trips for sales quota. This is all throughout the resume. And then in school was a 3.6 GPA president's list. This is a person that has a need for achievement no matter where you drop her or him. Let's keep rolling, Morgan. Next one. Let's do it again. This is all different jobs here. Exceeded revenue target, 120% of quota. Let's keep rolling. Exceeded quota, ranked number 1. Out of the entire team, ranked number 1. Exceeded quota again. These are all different positions. And then winner's circle, not once. Winner's circle 8 years in a row. And let's do one more. The other thing that candidates with drive possess is the ability to stick it out. They have grit, and they are going to continue to win year over year. That doesn't mean somebody with a great story that's jumped around every 2 years is a bad hire. But what it means is you want to see things like this. You want to see a couple years here, 4 years there, 3 years there. These are the things when we're effectively screening resumes for drive, we want to see their wins no matter what the role. Were they promoted? How many times did they get president's list? Where did they exceed quota? Those type of things. All right, let's kill it. So, anybody have any questions on the concept here and how to quickly look at a resume to figure out if a person has drive?
I mean, don't most of the, I mean, when you're talking with salespeople, I mean, don't most of them indicate, you know, the success they've had, this, that, everything else? I mean, how do you differentiate the milestones of what they've done with the intrinsic motivation for drive? That's where I think that's really difficult.
Understood. Let's do this exercise. I'm going to grab that in interviews. I hear you. You're absolutely right. The punchline here on this one, though, John, is you'd be surprised how many of my clients, when they open up the floodgates for resumes, I don't even see the awards. I don't even see the accomplishments. I don't see anything qualified. So in chat, grab those 2 resumes. This is going to be a very quick exercise. I'm only going to give you like 5 minutes tops. Pull down both of those resumes for me. And I want you to, on your own, skim them. We're not taking 10 minutes, less than 5 minutes. Skim those 2 resumes. And given what I just showed you, what drive looks like in a resume, let's talk about who are you more excited to speak with and what questions does this bring up for you during the interview. So I'm going to be quiet now. It's 12:18. I'll give you till like 12:23. And then let's talk about it based on that. John, I promise we'll get into how
You
to.
no, you don't modify your approach based on my timeline. Thank you.
Got it. All right, let's do it. Morgan, should you put up some mood music? What do we do here for 5 minutes?
I can do that.
All right, let's do it. And I'll pull out the resumes again as well. All right, less than 2 minutes, less than 2 minutes. Don't overthink it, skim it, and we'll jump right back in. All right. Let's start talking. Let's start talking. Anybody want to share, have you, in your current role or in a previous role, have you ever had to look at resumes and make decisions on who you're going to interview? If you have, okay, I see nodding from Jamie. What were you looking for in the past? Is this how you were looking at resumes in the past, or were you going through what was your strategy prior to what we just talked about?
I mean, what's interesting is that I would say the majority of the resumes that we would get for a sales role looked like Adams, where they're just listing all of the things they were responsible for. And until this conversation, I guess I wasn't looking at things like the numbers, which Bud is nodding his head because he does look for those things. But yeah, it's amazing how often we get sales people resumes who look exactly like his.
Yeah, the other thing that I think happens is you got to know what you're hiring for. You got to know you're hiring for a sales manager or an individual contributor. And, you know, did they make their number because they made their number as an individual contributor, or did they make it through a team? And if I'm hiring for a sales manager, Brian, you know, resume at least looks pretty impressive because he was a second level manager and he, had some not dramatic overachievement, but made his number and had some overachievement. But yeah, I agree with Jamie. Adam has a list of activities.
And yes, sir, Bud, I just want to say, for the scope of this, we're talking about contributors and not sales managers, sales leaders.
Okay.
We can talk about the offline, but you are absolutely right. It's still a little bit different, but yes. Anybody else have anything they want to share, add on to, or agree or disagree with Jamie and Bud?
I mean, it's pretty much the same thing. One person said managed and just gave a rundown of the things that they did versus specificity. And, spreadsheets love specificity, right? And so the one, obviously, the other gentleman had the success metrics, did this, grew by this, and that's what you want versus just all those things that everybody mentioned around just activities.
I guess I'm a little cynical about all of this because let me tell you this quick story. I was on a university faculty for 15 years, and every year we have to turn in our performance review stuff, and I would always do mine the best I could. And then I was on the review committee and I saw what other people turned in, and I was like, it's not that they've done anything better than me. They've mastered how to write it into a resume. So I'm not sure that I would look at these two and be like, oh, this one person's better than that. I would say this one person's been through a resume writing workshop, So I'm not quite sure that I don't know. I'm very skeptical about people just are really salespeople good at selling themselves. Maybe we should expect them to have this kind of resume if that's what they're up to. But yeah, I've always taken resumes kind of with a grain of salt, a little bit.
I love what you said, and I agree with you 100%. If we bound it back all the way up, there's no way to create 100% certainty. Can I put you into a scenario though? Okay, so you have a scenario where you have a small team, maybe you have someone on HR, maybe not. They're strapped, you don't have a recruiter, and you just had 20 resumes come in. Okay, so you're busy, you're doing a million other things, HR can't do it. How would you do the first round of who you're going to decide to give your valuable time to? Would you say, I'm cynical about resumes, so I need to sit down with all 20? Or would you say, this for first round, if you don't even have the ability to go to a resume writer, you don't have the right things on here, you didn't have achievement, you weren't promoted, achievement, winner circle, if you don't even have that in your resume, are you worth it for me to even sit down with you? That's the right question to ask. Cool?
Yep.
Okay, so you took the 20 down to maybe 6 or 7. While you're right, we still need that BS meter up, and that doesn't mean that this is a perfect fit. If you don't even care enough to put this in your resume, if you're not even hip to, I saw somebody in chat talk about AI, if you don't have the accolades to say I was number one, here's how I outperformed, you don't even have the opportunity to sit down with me. So that's first round. Let's jump into the burning question now is, okay, we got through, how do we conduct this interview? And let's keep going. So this is to John, this is to Danielle. How do we really figure out what's going on? So I want to give you the next big idea here on your North Star for successful interviews. And this is a hack, again, just to create some more certainty. Morgan, if you will please help me. Here is the hack for you. This is the North Star. The 3 of them combined is what I use every single time. Will you share the screen, Morgan?
It might not.
No, unless I'm, no. Awesome. All right, roll it back. Let's come out. All right. So the first thing is, keep going. The first thing is, does this candidate have drive? So you're going to ask questions. Tell me about your past jobs. Were you promoted? Did you beat quota? Did you make President's Circle? Have you ever won any awards? What are your accomplishments? What are you most proud of? Can you quantify it? You really need to dig in during the interview to make sure that the resumes aren't BS. Number 2, this my founders, my clients mess this up all the time. Would you personally buy from this person? Think about that very carefully. Not, oh, look, they have all these awards. They've done all these great things. Look at this resume. They obviously know more than sales than me. Let's hire them. No. Would you personally buy from this candidate? This will help you more than you can ever imagine. If you would not buy from this person, I don't care what's on the resume. I don't care what they say. They're out. And number 3, this helps me tremendously as well. Think about this for a second. Anybody that's ever interviewed someone, are they running away from something or are they running towards something? Let's let that sink in for a second. A candidate running away from something is, my company just had layoffs. I got to get out of here. Or I was just laid off and I need to find a new job. Or my manager is toxic. I have to get out of there. That's a candidate that is running away from something. Or are they running toward my passion? Where I want to build my career is more your industry. This is a huge jump for me. This is the biggest opportunity I could ever have. You have to jump. John, take care, man.
Guys, thank you very much. Sorry about this. This is
All
good stuff. All right.
Bye.
Thank you, guys. Have a good day.
Done.
Are they running towards something or away from something? When I'm interviewing a sales candidate for my clients, and I know this would be the biggest leap in their career, that is a tremendous, tremendous yes for me. Do they have drive? Would I personally buy from them? And do they want this opportunity or are they running away from something toxic? All right. So we're going to play another game and I'm going to get even more specific on how to get rid of that BS during interviews. This is called sales interview question around the room. We're going to play a quick game and we're going to have plenty of time to do questions and things at the end. All right, let's see. Jamie, interested in learning more about this, Tiffany. Okay, it plays a role. Got it. All right, answers versus behaviors. So when we're interviewing and we're asking interview questions, we are not looking for answers. We're not looking for the right answer. Like, oh, that person said the right thing. Like Tom Brady after a press conference. Oh no, it was a team effort. It's all about the team. That's what Tom Brady says. That's the right answer. If you're in a sales interview and you're getting all the right answers, that might even be a red flag in and of itself because they're BSing you, right? This could be a charlatan posing as a great salesperson. What we're looking for is behaviors. So what I want you to do quickly is write down on a piece of paper anything you have in front of you for this game. Tell me about a time when, and that'll make sense in a second. Tell me about a time when. All right. So, Tiffany, may I pick you? All right, let's put screen share back up. All right, here are the 3 questions for need for achievement. Tell me what you did to prepare for this interview. What is it about sales that gets you most fired up? And if you could get better at just one thing in relation to your sales performance, what would it be? Tiffany, what is your favorite question?
If you could get better at just one thing in relation to your sales performance, what would it be?
Awesome. Do you want to answer it or do you want to pick somebody in the room to answer that? This is a safe place.
I'll take the heat to start.
Okay, so I'm interviewing you. Tiffany, if you could get better at just one thing in relation to sales performance, what would it be?
If I could get better at one thing in my sales performance, it would be to oh, that's a good question. I'm like I'm just Jay, so good at all of it.
Okay, let's stop there.
I'm just kidding. I'm just playing.
I'm so good at all of it. My bullshit meter's going crazy.
I was gonna say currently, it would be creating predictable sales month over month. Because while hitting sales quota, we can see that in more seasonality terms or those. So I think that, something that I would like to work on is the gas break of just like, you know, because I'm also running prospect process, like what that looks like. So when I'm onboarding new prospects, that means my, foot on the gas is coming a little bit off lead generation. And so we're in this place of just kind of consistently getting a new business, closing new business, but that's running a cycle that doesn't allow us to be as predictable as we'd like. So I would love to find a way to improve that and make that more consistent for myself and the firm that I work for.
Right. Morgan, kill screen share for a second so we can all look at each other. Awesome. So I'm going to ask the room, was that an authentic answer?
Yes.
Yes. I trust that. That was awesome. And by the way, you and every other founder on the planet is dealing with predictor getting leads. Yes, I totally get it. So here's my follow-up. And that was not a BS. I'd be like, okay, awesome. Thank you for opening up. Thank you for sharing. Tell me about a time when you had to face a similar challenge, and what did you have to do to make things more predictable? What did you do to go the extra mile in order to make enough leads come in to flatten out that seasonality? You don't have to answer that, but do you see how tell me about a time when takes us from an answer to show me a behavior? Do you see? That's the magic there. All right, and I want to pause for a second. Does anybody want to react to this? Her answer, the first answer was I'm good at everything. And then the use of tell me about a time when to get into that behavior, to really get rid of that BS answer.
All right. I'll just comment really quick. I never thought to ask what gets you fired up about sales. I just assume that if they're coming in, they're getting fired up about sales. But it really is a good question if you are looking at behavior. So I do appreciate that. I made a note of it.
And I want to yes and you. Thank you for saying that. I went into a client recently, had a sales team of 13. I sat down with all of them in a one-on-one interview to get to know them. This kid told me, I hate people.
Oh, that's great.
It was a 30-minute get to know him. He told me he hates people. He's a salesperson.
Oh, wow.
How did you miss that?
Wow.
You'd be surprised the stuff that comes in. All right, Morgan, let's do round two. We're only going to do 3 rounds. This is a safe place. I hope you can see we're just having fun here. So competitiveness. Give us the 3 questions. Oh, and Tiffany, you do get to pick who goes next. Tiffany, pick somebody.
Mike, you're on my screen, so I'm going with you. You ready?
Let's do it.
All right, so Mike, we're going to give you the 3. You pick it, and then Morgan kill the screen after he picks. All right, let's do it. Mike, here are your 3 questions during the interview. How do you like to be recognized for a big win? What's worse, not hitting your quota or not having happy customers? On a scale of 1 to 10, how competitive would your significant other say you are, and why?
Alex, I'll go for number 2.
Which one are you picking?
Number 2, if you could put that back up.
Okay. What's worse? I believe number 2 is what's worse, not hitting your quota or not having happy customers.
Right.
This is going to be a hard one to BS. I know how to BS. This is a tough one. All right. So do you want to answer this, Mike, or you want to have somebody else answer it?
I want Bud to answer it.
Bud.
Me not having happy customers is worse than not making your quota. And it's a lot of year because I know most of the time quotas are completely arbitrary. It's a measurement, it's a number, but it's not an indication of, not really a good indication of, are you going to be a performance and how you going to do it, right? The other reason I think that is because if I'm only going after making my quota, I'm have a high propensity to sell shit that can't be delivered. and I'm not going to have a happy customer.
So tell me about a time when you had to deploy this wisdom.
No,
Yeah,
wait,
well, that goes back.
Do it. Mike, you got to tell me, and you use it. Go tell me about a time when you missed quota.
Tell me about a time when you missed quota and you had to when you had to select missing quota over making a customer happy.
I was a regional sales manager at Tandem Computers, and the prospect, was a large manufacturing company. And at the time, Tandem didn't have very good manufacturing software that ran on the system. And rather than convincing them that we did, I told them the truth, didn't get the deal, missed going to quota club, but I could sleep well at night, frankly, because I knew we couldn't do the job that they really needed to get done. We just didn't have this. The hardware was great, the software didn't exist.
Okay, let's give them a round of applause. That was awesome. My founders,
It's also a
my
true
CEOs,
story.
I believe it. Who would hire Bud? Who would hire Bud up? Hell yeah, I would. Because he's also looking out for his own reputation, the brand. This is a good person with integrity. That's who I want on my team. That's my value. Now, if I'm a boiler room CEO that's up to shiesty stuff, maybe that's not the right answer. But for me personally, I'm hiring Bud. That's the answer I want to hear. That's authentic. I'm not getting a BS radar ping going off. All right, 3 of 3. Bud, you get to pick who's going next on this round. Bud, you pick them. This is last round.
I will go with Jamie.
I'm sorry. Who did we say?
Jamie.
Jamie. Okay. All right,
Yeah.
Jamie. This is about optimism. Part of drive is you got grit, you got persistence, you're optimistic, you're going to get through it. You got to keep going. So here's your 3 questions. Name a time you received criticism and how you handled it.
Great.
When you've had a string of no's from prospects, you're in a slump. How do you stay motivated? Number 3, how do you like to blow off steam after a bad day at work?
All right. So I ask someone.
Yeah, you can ask someone, but pick your favorite one first. Which one is like, ooh, that's interesting. I'd definitely ask that.
I feel like I typically will pick things like receiving criticism. So I'm going to go with the last one. How do you blow off steam after a bad day at work? Danielle, I'm going to ask you. You're okay with it?
Sure. Well, let me tell you about my day yesterday. No, I'm kidding. I go on really long walks or I garden, but either way, and I'm alone, which is my preference because work is very interactive. There's so many like stimulations. So I think walking, I usually will listen to a podcast or something for like 4 miles, just focusing or just being outside in my garden. But I have to be doing something that's not working for sure. So this one was easy.
Okay, you want to give her another one? She said that one was easy.
Oh, well, that's not mine.
Criticism. Dude, we got time. Anybody want to do the criticism one? I think that's a deep one, and it was a great answer, Danielle. That is the right answer. I'm getting to know you. I'm understanding. You have self-awareness. You know how to decompress. And I'm the same way. When I'm decompressing, I need to do the exact opposite of what I'm doing all day long. It's definitely not go out to parties and socialize. It's like put me in an isolation float tank. That's how I come down. Okay, so who wants to answer the criticism? Tell me a time you received criticism. Safe place. How do you name a time you received criticism and how you handled it? Or I can go too.
Yeah, you go, Jay. Let's hear it.
Absolutely. So just recently, I went to a coach about presenting. So I showed him my videos and I got some feedback on not only my body language, but just my inability to connect at times and then sit there and actually receive that energy back, right? So that was a deep thing I had to go through. It absolutely stopped me for a second. I had to talk myself into, okay, this is just going to make you better. It took me probably 2 or 3 days to digest it, to talk about it and come up with a plan. So my punchline is, if I'm interviewing, I don't handle criticism like that day. It takes me a minute. It takes me 2 or 3 days to really absorb it, to face it, to think about it, to process it, to come up with a plan. And then I bounce back, but I can't do that immediately. So I gave you tell me a time when, but that is not a bullshit answer, because you could tell I'm really telling you a real story. And that was just the most recent, but that stopped me. That's what I want to hear from salespeople. I want to get to know you. I want to look inside you. I want you to tell me what makes you tick, so I understand that you're not BSing me. This is the art of the interview, is getting underneath, finding the motivation, asking the right questions, and then hitting them with, tell me about a time when, because there's no way after you give a BS answer, there's no way to do another BS answer like Bud. Bud had to go to a real place. Bud wasn't role playing that anymore. Bud was like, all right, boom, I'll give it to you. We have a minute here. We're going to get out of here on time. Anybody want to respond to this? Anybody want to talk about this? When you stack looking for drive, you stack looking at resumes the way we do, and then you're diving deeper into these questions. Does everybody understand? Is there anything else I can articulate around the stacking of this to get to the right person?
One thing that stood out for me on Bud's answer, and kind of comes from, there's this strategy statement framework where we favor this even over that, where the polarities are really tough decisions. And then that helps you land on where you want to land in these tough decisions. So, in Bud's example, he landed on something that was less about self and more about the quality of the customer experience, the quality of the brand of the company, where he wants to land in his own value system. It's interesting how even over that framework might even be in like a little sub layer in this, but I found that interesting in his answer and all the things that it drew forward in the storytelling.
Yeah.
So that's it. Comment, I suppose. No question.
I also, Jed, I really like the way the questions frame how to get at, the character of the individual, right? Related to performance, but also it, in a very subtle way, it digs deeper into, what kind of a person is that's, that we're bringing in. It's not a direct, tell me about your sales process, or, something, directly related to the job of the job, right? The skills of the job. Yeah.
Beautiful. And this is why you need to understand, what are your company's core values? What are your core values?
Yeah.
Because that's got to mix. If you don't know what your core values are, you don't even know what you're looking for. So how did you word that? I just wrote it down because it was really good. The polarity of tough decisions, right? You can write those if you know what you're looking for, right? So it's all framing up. I'm more, again, Bud hit my heartstrings. That's the type of salesperson I want. I don't want a killer that's going to ruin my brand, hit quota, put trash in my pipeline, hold my whole company hostage because they're saying yes to everything. That's insane. That's insane. That's not what we want. That's a cancerous cowgirl or cowboy salesperson that's going to hold your whole company hostage. You're building a culture. And if you know what you're looking for, that's how we build it. So last couple of quick things. At the end of every interview, I always say, what questions do you have for me? This is super simple. If they don't have any questions for you, That's not a great salesperson. Great salespeople, they're curious. They want to uncover things. They want to figure you out. They have a ton of questions. If there's no questions, they're probably running away from something and not towards something. And the last thing that's been very interesting and another way to really bring out another layer of candidate where they can't BS you is I give them homework. So Morgan, would you help me put up this sample homework? And this is just an idea for you. But what I love about this homework is I say, and I only ask this homework to somebody that I want to keep talking to. But the first thing I ask them in homework is, hey, when you get out of here, I'd like you to write me an email. Okay, that's another layer of a resume writer is not going to be able to write this for you. Not only do I see this person's self-awareness, their spelling, their grammar, and get to reflect, did this person see this interview the same way as me? But I can get that all at once. And now there's no way to BS this because it just happened and I was there with you. Part two, and this is especially for salespeople who prospect, make them do a little bit of work, not a lot of work. If you're a salesperson worth your salt, you'd be able to figure out 5 quick prospects and why you'd reach out to those 5 first. This total homework assignment should take maybe 20 minutes, maybe 30. Candidate really wants to work for you, they'll fill it out. If they don't, you just got another proof point. You just figured something else out. All right, I'm going to close with a story here. And this is the punchline of all of this. We've already talked about it subtly, but I wanted to say it again. So this was a real study, and there's 2 juicer salespeople on 2 different sides of the mall. They look the same, they're dressed the same, they're working from the same pitch. The juicer salesperson on this side of the mall, she nails her pitch for the juicer, and when it comes time to pour juice samples, she pours them perfectly and hands them out. However, the juicer salesperson on this side of the mall, she also nails her pitch. But when it comes time to pour juice samples, she spills. It's messy, it's embarrassing. She cleans up the best she can, pours out juice samples and hands them out. Who do you think that day sold more juicers?
The one that didn't spill.
Why is that?
Attention to detail, careful, know enough about the product to be able to use it yourself. Demonstrated more competence with the product.
Okay, anybody agree or disagree with Bud?
Agree.
That's
Okay.
where I was leaning. But I could see a scenario where people feel for the other person and they recovered and did a good job. So they showed, persistence in adversity and still made it to the end line of giving the drinks out.
Yep. So let's bring this back to your own values. Bud, you're not wrong. If I was hiring a brain surgeon and this guy can't even pour a cup of coffee, I'm not letting you in my brain. Like that's super important for this job. But in this study done by Vanessa Van Edwards, the spiller, Mike is actually right. The spiller sold more juicers that day because of the connection. Because people are, I've definitely spilled. That was embarrassing. Yep, she recovered. Yeah, let's buy a juicer, right? So the stakes were different. Nobody's wrong here. But the idea is this is what we're trying to do in an interview. So I brought up Tom Brady. It's about connection, not perfection. You as the founder, you as the person hiring the salesperson, if that interview is too perfect and there's no weaknesses, that in and of itself is a red flag. I don't know if anybody likes The Boys, but both of these are characters to me that are perfect and always know the right thing to say at all times. I think that is a red flag, going all the way back to what Danielle was saying. I think perfection is actually scarier. So let's recap. We're done, and then we can talk for a few minutes and get you out of here. Let's recap this, Morgan. All right, recap key points. Drive, a need for achievement, optimism, and drive. Screen resumes, this is to be more productive. It doesn't mean because you have a great resume, I'm hiring you. It just means screen those resumes. If you don't even have achievements and quantified stuff on your resume, it's probably not even worth your time. Number 3, recap of key points. Ask the right questions, right? What are your values? How are you going to ask these right questions? How are you going to get to the right questions? And I still think a perfect interview, and you do not see this person's weakness or vulnerability or anything wrong, I think that's a red flag. And the last 2 things we didn't talk about today due to time, but you got to make sure when you're hiring salespeople, you got to sell that position, set realistic expectations. And the last piece here is never, ever, ever have a good interview with someone and then hire her or hire him. Have some type of process where someone in HR is going to help you, your partner, another salesperson, someone in another department, get your plan together, but never, ever, ever, ever hire a salesperson with just you are the only one who interviews. You always want to get everybody on the same page as to what you're looking for and be able to triage. All right. And then last piece is here. You could keep the screen up. Yep. So when you do this type of thing, even there's no silver bullet. This will create more certainty. You'll know what you're getting into. This is how you hire those high performers, people that have drive, that no matter what, they're going to be resourceful enough to get in, figure it out, and achieve. Create a repeatable process of this. Just like I said before, don't wing it. What are we looking for in resumes? What are we looking for in the interview? Do a couple people interview them? Did we assign homework? What does the homework look like? Create that repeatable process, even if it's not a million steps, but create it, have someone help you. 2 or 3 people is ideal. And last one, this is how you scale, right? So once you have those Lego instructions, to go all the way back to the beginning, once you have those Lego instructions, you also need the Lego instructions for how to hire. This is a very simple blueprint of it. So that is it. 12:56. Big round of applause for Morgan for producing this. And big round of applause.
Sorry for some of the hiccups.
Okay.
Apologies.
It's awesome. Thank
I'll
you.
buy your juice.
Thank you.
And big thanks to you. I really appreciate you turning on your video, interacting with me, being so engaged, participating. That means the world to me. If you need anything, my name is Jay. Again, my website is pitchlab.io. There's a squatter on .com. I'm figuring it out. But pitchlab.io. Morgan, they'll get this video? How do we go from here?
I'll send you the video and the slide deck if we're able to send in the slide deck, Jay.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Let's turn it into a PDF first, please.
Yes, of course.
But yeah, you can have the slide deck. Reach out to me if I can do anything for you. Thank you for spending your lunch hour with me. And I really appreciate your time. Thanks so much. I hope to see you again.
Thanks,
Thank you,
Jay.
everyone.
Awesome.
Bye.
Thank you.